Oh, well. Welcome, everyone. We have fun if we start the show laughing. So, I am a co host of Collaboration Conversations. I'm Regina Partain Bergman, and I'm thrilled to have my co host, Pearl Cox of Powell Pearls of Wisdom, with us. Good morning, Pearl. Well,
Good
it's morning
morning,
for me, it's afternoon or evening for you.
good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone, no matter where you are in the world and what time you watch this replay if you're not watching us live. Hi,
Awesome.
I'm very hyper. You will realise I'm hyper today, so that's
And that makes two of us. One of the things that you can always, one way you can tell I'm in a really positive state of mind is I will start humming or singing, of course off key, because I'm not the world's greatest singer for sure. But I was singing in the kitchen yesterday, just couldn't stop myself, and my husband was like, "Wow, okay, what happened?" And it's just like lots of great things are happening. So yeah, it's an exciting world, an exciting time to be in it. I love that we can be so connected around the globe.
yes.
It just wasn't possible a few years ago. You and I would never have met 5 years ago, 10
Oh,
years ago,
I,
maybe
I,
five,
I think that, but then the connection we have, I think there is some way the earth, the
that it
universe
could have happened.
could
Yes,
have brought
would have
us together,
made,
I
yeah,
think.
I don't doubt that. But when we think from a logical, technological
Yeah,
perspective, if it would have been difficult for sure, would
yeah.
have been difficult. And now it's just, we just hop on a call anytime we need to. We don't have to think about, and some of you are way too young for this, but long distance rates. Uh, and then of course there are, if you pick up the phone and call, if I were to pick up the phone and call Pearl, there would be charges involved in that. But
Yep.
it used to be any time that you were outside of your own area, there was a charge involved. And so, the charges, the further away you were or crossing country lines, the greater those charges. And so, yeah, it's wonderful to live in a day and age when we are so connected.
Definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
Now, I am going to turn the tables today. Now, we talked about this before we came on air. Regina is always the one doing the interviewing, so we don't get to hear all the fantastic stuff she does. So we've said that, especially on the Thursday when it's just the two of us talking, we are going to turn the tables on each other every other week so that I can interview one week, Regina can interview the next. So
Awesome.
today it is my chance to ask this wonderful lady some questions. And we've chosen collaboration because, as we know, it's collaborative voices, this this live stream that we do. One of our words for this year is collaboration. So I want to ask you, Regina, I mean, this is again how we got to be closer. Do you want to share the story maybe about how we met, how we got to collaborate, and some of the collaborations you've been on? Because they are phenomenal. They really are. The way your mind works, it just it just lights up all the time. It's like one of these pinball machines where it goes ping, 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 ping.
My
Great.
sister says my brain just explodes. Yeah, I would love to. So the story of you and I meeting, you can fill in details here what I miss, Pearl, because I think you have a greater mind for detail than I do. But we were introduced by a dear friend, Bernie Floresca, and I met Bernie through Tobin Slavin and Tobin's what was the name of that program Tobin had going at the time?
I did.
I
Book
can't think of it.
of
Book,
expert.
yeah, but even before Book of Experts, yeah. So anyway, Tobin had a program going. Bernie was in that. They had a group on Facebook. Bernie was in that group. I met Bernie there in the group, and Bernie introduced me to you. Collaboration conversations, right? You then interviewed me on your podcast for International Women's Day last year, and then I participated in some of your panels, and then you and I have gone on to do other things together. That was just the beginning. So let me share a little bit about what we're doing together, some of the things. So the first thing is that I have a group called Business Superheroes. And that group is a group of 8 business owners, each of us with a different area of expertise that we really excel in. And we come together, currently we come together like every 2 weeks. In the beginning, we met once a week, where we were really getting to know and understand each other and the value that we each bring into the group. And so, and how that value can be translated into value for our clients. So we're looking within that group, who can I partner with to do something special for my clients, to bring some extra value to my clients. And so that's Pearl and I connected really well in there. She's one of the people that I invited to that group. And then from there, then Pearl, of course, is doing her International Women's Day and Women Who Lead program. And we decided to partner together to work together on helping these women who lead and other projects where we help them along a journey to that thought leadership, that visibility in the world, that ability to stand out. And we have several steps that we take them through to do that. But then Pearl and I partnered with another partner that I have on another similar type project, and we're working on that together. So there are all these interwoven things in our relationship. It's not just a one thing. When you get started collaborating with people, it just mushrooms, doesn't it, Pearl?
It does. And as we were saying before we even came on air, we think of collaboration, just that piece where you join people together and they work on something from maybe different strands. But there's so many different areas of collaboration, because you touched on strategic collaboration. Now, what do you mean by that? Because it's a great word.
Good question.
So many people use it, but it's sometimes people use it because it's a buzzword, but they don't fully understand, therefore they can't implement it properly. So can you share with us what you feel strategic collaboration is?
Sure. So when I'm thinking about strategic networking, there are all kinds of networking events that you can go to. And I get invited to, I have standing invitations to quite a few of them. Many of them I do not make it to. I have to be careful, as each of us do, with how we spread ourselves around, how we manage our time. And honestly, there's just not enough hours in the day to attend all of the networking functions that I am invited to. So then I have to say, okay, which ones are going to bring the greatest value to my business? Which ones are going to have my ideal clients or my ideal collaboration partners in it? Yeah. It's not always about the client. It's sometimes about who can I partner with, who can get me in front of my clients, my ideal clients. Yeah. And it's not about going to a meeting and handing out your business card to 50 people. That's not networking. That's just giving them something to throw in the trash when they get home, right? But it's about serving. How can you serve? Let me share just a couple of things that have come out of recent networking. One in particular. So I participate in a networking program that is called Deluxe Networking Program, and their goal is to help 100 businesses in 100 communities to max out their business, to just absolutely knock it out of the park with their business, to change economies, to help every community be able to build their own economy, so that we have people supporting the businesses. We have the businesses being able to support the community. And that old expression of a rising tide raises all ships, right? It's that same kind of a thing. Let's elevate everyone in the community. And so one of the meetings that I went to, I met a gentleman by the name of Matthew Gualderrama. And Matthew is a financial planner. So Matthew and I met earlier this week and planned out a workshop that we're going to do together. Now, Matthew's in Arizona and I'm in Texas. We're not in the same time zones. We're not in the same state. We are in the same country. We got that much. but it was really funny. And the synchronicities that happen when you start working in these collaborative veins is also awesome, because we arranged to meet outside of the networking event. I wanted to share with him some things that I can do to help his clients. And so we had this meeting. And when I mentioned the possibility of us doing a workshop together, Matthew just cracked up. And it was interesting to note the expression on his face in that response. Well, the reason he laughed was because he had just told his wife, I need to do a workshop, and had gone through and created the content for the workshop. And so as we continued the discussion, there was something else I suggested. And again, he just started smirking and laughing. And I said, okay, what was it this time? And again, it was that synchronicity of he was already thinking in that vein, and it was just a perfect tie-in. When you're listening to the people that you are interacting with and you're looking for that win-win-win, I want it to be a win for me, I want it to be a win for you, and I want it to be a win for our clients. And I don't want to do anything that's not a three-way win at the minimum.
Yeah.
But when you're listening and you're looking for that, those opportunities just rise to the surface, and it is fun, and it does make you chuckle at the synchronicities that happen, and those opportunities that come up because you're in that space. So that's just one networking thing that's happened recently. Is we now have in 3 weeks we'll be putting on a workshop for folks in Arizona primarily, and being able to present his material and my material side by side, and how they can help businesses in that community.
Oh, wow. Well, and synchronicity is the S word. It's one of my favorite words. I've been
Mine too.
Another synchronicity, something else that brings us together. And I always talk about law of attraction with this. So I have to say, if I mention law of assumption, that you assume that you are going to reach all your goals, the universe brings it to you. That's exactly what has happened, that has manifested, where you've sorted out to do this workshop. You've set that intention. You've assumed that it's already happened. That's what you're going to go and you want to manifest. And it happens. And also, you come from a place of giving, and that helps as well. All the time, if you're constantly thinking, me, what can I get for me? That rubs off.
You're not going to get much.
You're not, because that vibration is what people pick up. They almost pick up on the greed vibration, the me vibration. Whereas if you're thinking, how can I help you? How can I leave you with a feeling of increase? That's when you're going to bring the right people to you, because you're always giving more than you receive, because ultimately by doing that, you get everything you could ever want.
Yeah, I agree. And, one of the expressions that I have claimed for years is in line with what you just said, is what you think about, you bring about.
Yeah.
And that's, that's a guiding principle for me. So I always want to have those positive thoughts and always be elevated, thinking about the best. So in terms of strategic networking, again, it's making sure that where you're networking, that one, that you're giving value there, but two, that it is either where your ideal client is hanging out or your ideal joint venture partner, or someone who can introduce you to your ideal client.
Yeah.
And it's giving first. Absolutely.
Definitely. And I think as well, there's almost a lot to be said for almost an affiliate or something that you give a payback. So if someone is going to introduce you to a possible client, or just that connection, it's a way of saying thank you. And some people actually make a business out of making introductions, don't they?
They do indeed. They do indeed.
And they charge a pretty penny for it as well. But it's understanding. Is understanding this. And it goes back to, like you were saying, there are so many types of collaboration. Yes, you've spoken about different things, the whole idea of networking, and where we look at strategic collaboration. would you say there's personal collaboration? Because we always touch on the business side, but I think sometimes there's a lot to be said in the collaboration on a personal level. It could be a group of friends that support each other.
Yeah.
It could be when you go into a relationship that you collaborate with the perfect partner. It could be so, and this goes back to the books that you've written. Your first book, doesn't it? It
Yes.
does.
Bulletproof Your Marriage. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You know, there's another element that you make me think of when you talk about that, and that is the communication element within those collaborations. It's important that you come in with the intention that you're going to serve, that you know when you're dealing with different personalities, issues can pop up. And so, we need to first have an attitude of trying to work through it. Sometimes it's not possible. I've had relationships fall apart, not too many, but I've had them fall apart when it was just, we were just so different.
Yeah.
We couldn't find a way to stay on the same page, so, and sometimes that happens. But it's important to understand who you are, how you work, and then be as alert as possible to who that other person is and how they work and how they communicate, so that you can smooth over the differences that are going to come, because you're different people. Those differences are going to come into those relationships, and they're not always fun, are they?
But it's that's the learning, and that's the growth as well. And I think the
Exactly.
stronger the relationship, you will grow and learn through any slight disagreements or something that you
Yeah.
have. And it's the people
Yeah.
that don't try and then their relationships fail.
Right.
Like you said, some relationships fail simply because they weren't a good match. But
Right.
don't walk away from a relationship until you've tried everything. Don't just
Exactly.
give it away, because it could just be the way you're approaching something. It could be a trait in a personality that once you understand how the other person ticks and you realize how you should approach things, you realize that if it's in a personal relationship, you could fall in love all over again because you actually get that connection once more.
Yeah.
If it's a close friend that you're working with, I mean, that love's there as well. It's a slightly different type,
Exactly.
but you still
Yeah.
grow so close to each other. And sometimes it goes back to, like you were saying, the word communication. If you don't communicate, you don't know what the other person, what the other party is feeling.
Exactly. And be willing to not be defensive, because it's easy sometimes to read in a personal affront when someone says something or does something. And so we have to learn not to be defensive, but to stop and assess. And like you say, sometimes you can work it out and sometimes not. Sometimes the differences are just so huge that it's not going to work out. And then you have to be okay with letting that go and moving on, and still holding that person in as the expression is, light and love. You still want the best for them, even though it didn't work out for the two of you.
Yep.
Whether that's a marriage or that's a personal relationship or even a business.
But you everyone saw us both laughing, and I'm nodding my head vigorously because I can be the world's worst. The times I come to this lovely lady and I go, rah, 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 and she will listen and almost step back. And then when I've calmed down, I see sense and I think, oh dear, I need to go and tell you what I've said. But sometimes it is, you can see that we can always give advice to others, but we don't always see that flaw in ourselves. And
Exactly.
it is understanding mirroring, because quite often what is triggering you is quite often a mirror of things that you're doing, and people are only giving back what you've given to them. And it's understanding that, and that takes a massive learning curve. It takes a bigger person to admit, yes, I can see that, I can see where I can put things right. Yeah. But the change at the other side is well worth it.
Yeah. I had a conversation this morning with a business slash friend. You know, we come in multiple layers of relationship with one another. And she really wanted to share a caution with me for me. And you know, she said, I don't want to overstep the line, but I really feel I need to share this, you know. And that's, I appreciated that she cared enough to want to share this thing that was on her heart about me, and something that she was concerned about for me, and that she was willing to risk offending or stepping over the line to share. But she prefaced it in such a way that it opened me up, you know, to receive. And, you know, I think that's one of the things that I learned in this relationship with my current husband. Some of you know I was married for 44 years, and my husband passed away, and I remarried about a year and a half later. And this year will be our 6th anniversary. But one of the things that we do in our relationship is, if we have a difficult subject that we need to talk about, something that, you know, we think might be a really hard conversation, we approach it with, you know, I need to have a difficult conversation with you. And that lets the other person know that this is not easy for you to come to them with. It opens them up to be receptive, to be understanding of whatever it is you're bringing to the table. And we have found it to work really well for us, and to be a good communication tool for us, so that it's not, so that the other person comes into it completely open to whatever is going to happen, and not being defensive or angry or whatever. Yeah.
That's a brilliant thing to have in your toolbox, because like we said, yes, we've turned it to personal, but that's a skill set that you can take back into business and back into collaboration as well.
Yes.
So it's knowing, quite often it's those transferable skills that we use in different areas of our lives that we can take with us, and so often we forget that, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You know, an interesting, just to kind of show this round rosy that you can get into in terms of meeting people. I recently attended a training put on by Liz J. Simpson, and there were some beautiful, wonderful ladies in that training. It was all women, and people around the world, and connecting with lots of those ladies. You know, I mean, sometimes a training can be better than a networking session, right? When people are open and wanting to connect with one another. So I met a lady there, Arquella Hargrove, and we're talking about things that we might be able to do together. But then she introduced me to a Dr. Portia Jackson from the city of Houston, who is involved in a program here in Houston. It's called the Office of Business Opportunity, and they provide training to business owners. And so now the opportunity is coming my way to be able to be a facilitator, a teacher in one of those sessions for those business owners. Had I not gone to Liz's class, I wouldn't have met Arquella. She would not have introduced me to Portia.
Yeah.
You know, collaboration conversations.
It does. It just goes round and round. But also, I think it comes down to you and how good you are at what you do, Regina, because
thank you. It's only a piece of it, though, folks.
you light up everywhere you go, because I almost look at it like, if we look at Tinkerbell with the pixie dust, you put this business pixie dust everywhere you go, because
I love that.
You've got so much to share. And it's almost like you can see the sparkles where you've been, and the connections and the people that you've touched. That's where you've left your pixie dust sparkle.
I love that. Thank you.
Brilliant. So I told you I was on one today, didn't I?
I'll have to see if I can work pixie dust into my branding. I know somebody who can help me with that. That would be Pearl Cox. Thank you. Those are kind words. I appreciate that very much. And it comes back to just having a love of people and wanting the best for people. As long as I can remember, I have enjoyed seeing people achieve their full potential or achieve some measure of their full potential. And if I can be a part of that and help them along that journey, that is just the most rewarding thing to me to be able to do that. And then, of course, as you know, the ripple effect from that, when they go out and change the world, then I've had a little part in that, and that really excites me.
And I think that's one of the bits I love as well, that when you and I plan things and then we go away and you will come back to me and you will send me a message, oh, I've done this, this and this, I've got this result. I get so excited for you because we've worked on ideas and I can see where it's growing your business and the input that you've put in. And likewise, if you put something for me and I can say, oh yes, I've implemented what you've suggested, and
Yeah.
the difference, that's not only does it make collaboration, it makes friendship. And
Absolutely.
I used to go into business and I'd always thought, you don't make friends with business, you can't mix the two. But I think you can. I think our business is stronger because we have
Yeah,
such a strong friendship that has grown from
exactly.
the initial business meeting, from that networking collaboration. It's grown. And when we look back, we've known each other just over a year now.
Yeah,
And it feels like I've known you all my life.
I
It really.
know. You know, you hear people say you can't be friends with your employees, you can't be friends with your clients. You need to keep that distance. That doesn't work for me.
No.
You can have a position of authority within a friendship
Yeah.
if you set it up properly,
Yes.
But I respect the opinions and the knowledge of all of my clients. It's and there is a mutual respect. We each bring different things to the table.
Yeah.
And so it's yeah, but we can still have our friendship on top of that.
And that comes back to what we were saying. It's like that listening piece as well, that when people start to collaborate, you have to give as much as you receive. And you can't just always, like we said, all about me, me, me. It's giving.
Right.
And that's where the trust comes. And once you've
Right.
got that, that's where the relationship grows. Because if you haven't
Yeah.
got that trust, if you feel that the partner that you want to work with is all about themselves, it doesn't gel the same.
Yeah.
You don't get the
Nope.
result, the right
No,
result. You might
you
still
don't.
get results, but they won't be anywhere near as good
Yeah.
as if you've got that trust piece in place, because that's the foundation that you're going to grow the rest of your business life and the rest of your time working with that person. And if the trust isn't there, it becomes quite short.
It does. You make me think of something else when you say that. I do some work with a coaching organization where I guide people through a role play process. So brand new coaches, and I am the client, and they are walking me through this coaching process as though I were their client. And one of the things that I find that makes a big difference in how successful they are is how much they're listening to my story as they interview me or as they ask me questions to take me down this journey. And if they come into it with a preconceived idea of what they're going to do for me, of where we're going to go in this journey and what that's going to look like, then they don't hear valuable information that could change that to where it could be so much more beneficial to both of us.
Yeah.
And so, it's the same thing in these relationships. We need to remember that God gave us 2 ears, 1 mouth, right? Listen twice as much as we speak. And really listen. What are the needs of that person that you're partnering with or that you're collaborating with, or the needs of their clients? What are those needs? Really listen. Don't come in thinking you have all the answers. You may know your craft, You may know exactly what you're doing in your craft, but that when you listen to that other person, you're going to pick up some nuances that allow you to serve them at a higher level.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
And that whole idea of role play to actually see, because that's then where you will pinpoint where you're going wrong. And quite often it'll be like you've said, you can actually see places where
Yeah.
the new coach is so set in their ways, they haven't seen the areas that they're missing because they've got
Yeah.
like their practice speech. And sometimes
Right.
they don't even give the client, the person in that role, the chance to answer. And so
Right.
that's partly where they're not landing the clients, because they're doing their spiel, giving no one the chance to reply.
Right.
And
Right.
it's and as much that listening piece, we've got two eyes as well. We look to see the body language.
Exactly.
It's quite
Yes.
often, if you've upset someone, they will change the way they look. They will sit and
Yes.
you start to push away because
Yeah.
they aren't happy with what's being said. And we need to learn to read all of those things.
Yes.
And like we said, where we've met, we're in two different continents, but we connect over this digital arena. But we can still read body language, we can listen,
Right.
we can respond. But so many people don't see it, they don't see those things.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
is so important as well.
Right. Right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's coming into these coming into conversations with whoever they are with an open mind, no assumptions, but being open to where the road leads, whatever that is, can make a powerful difference in the journey and the impact of that journey.
And I've just
Yeah.
had a thought come through. Now, I've never tried it, but it's just something that I'm thinking from what we've said could well work. When you're doing that role play in business, maybe try and take one of your senses away. Like if you were to cover your ears so you couldn't hear what's being said, and the person giving you the instructions is only using body language, hand signs, they might, all right, you might find that you want to draw a picture and share it, but
Right.
remove one of those senses and see how that helps you to communicate with someone. And likewise,
Yeah.
when we're saying about people don't listen, remove their
Right.
sight, put a blindfold on so that they
Right.
cannot see the body language, so they have to listen more to really
Right.
hear what's being said. And
Great idea.
I've never tried it, but it's definitely
Yeah.
something I'm thinking, if you try that and just see, even try it with an audio, maybe if there's a podcast, and we both have our podcast, so I'm going to do a
Right.
shout out for the podcast to listen, practice that. Try listening without maybe, well, yes, podcast may be a bad thing. Scrap that, because I can't say you can't view it. You can't view it then, but almost try something on YouTube where all you're doing is listening. So you blindfold and you just hear the message and listen to the nuances in someone's voice. And likewise, then you cover your ears and just view something without the sound and see what
Right.
happens, and see if you can fully understand. But take
Yeah.
subtitles off. Do not cheat. You can't have the subtitles on if you're doing YouTube. It's the way it teaches you to start to view from the other person, and it teaches us empathy when we look at diversity as well. You have, if you haven't lived in another person's shoes, you cannot truly engage with them on the same level.
So true. Great idea. Pearl, can we take a few minutes? When you're talking about diversity, it reminds me of the International Women's Day theme this year. Eliminate the bias. Is that
Break the bias.
break the bias? Break the bias. Why don't you talk to us a little bit about that, International Women's Day?
Yes, I have done 2 of my panels so far. I am going to be doing 2 panels a week throughout March, and it will carry on more because we've got so many phenomenal ladies that are taking part in this. And we start off, yes, we each introduce ourselves, what our business does and what we offer to people. Then I open the floor to the question of breaking the bias. And it's amazing how many different ways and ideas I mean, I think I'd had this discussion with Regina before I even started. I wasn't going to touch the theme this year because I thought it was too politically motivated. But I'm embracing it. I've actually shared on my LinkedIn profile only this week. I shared, where are we now? Tuesday, when it was International Women's Day, I actually shared the panel that we did, and the discussion that came after that generated so much empathy and understanding. In fact,
Oh, wow.
you saying this, I've thought that's going to be another one of my collaborations. I felt so moved by what I was saying.
Right.
I to start a collaboration of bringing people together to see if we can break a bias. I'm not saying
Fantastic.
a single one. It's thinking of a certain idea and saying how we can break just something and really change the way people approach a
Right.
certain area, because it's understanding it. And it's unconscious bias that I hit upon most. And like I was saying, this is the bit I didn't want to touch. But then I
Right.
said quite openly, I'm a white woman that comes from a middle class family. I have had a certain teaching and an upbringing that I haven't lived in anyone else's shoes. I don't know when certain people say certain things, I cannot comprehend because I have not lived it. But to do that and then to understand that, that was a massive aha moment for me, because then when I truly thought about it that way, I thought, well, yes, how do these other people, how do they feel? Let me put myself in their shoes, and how would I feel the way I speak about something, because I'm coming from a certain viewpoint and I haven't seen a 360 view of a certain subject matter.
Right.
That was such mind-blowing, awakening thought. But I mean, to begin with, I started when someone first said to me unconscious bias, I got all uppity. Oh no, well, what? I don't have a bias bone in my body. How can I be unconsciously biased? But I was without knowing it. And that was the wake-up call to realize that.
I think that's probably true of all of us.
But it's being, how many of us are brave enough to actually embrace that and say it?
And do something about it.
Yes, and that's the thing. That's where when I have my ideas, it comes from the heart. I know I'm being guided to do something. And literally, when I put out at the end of that last panel, yes, I know my next collaboration's got to be bringing people together to break the bias, or to break a bias, because there are so many. It's literally, you could take a single topic and work on that for a year, and bring people together to talk about that subject and really see what change can be made by it. I mean,
really dive into it. Yeah.
And it's going
Absolutely.
back to the topic that we started with, this whole idea of networking and collaboration, that bringing people together that can help on a certain subject, being open enough to embrace it. And this, even though, like I said, I didn't want to touch this theme, I thought it was far too political.
I remember.
Now I feel it has moved me more than any other theme when I've covered International Women's Day, because it's important. And when you truly realize what's behind it, and the idea of breaking the bias will be different to everyone, because everyone will see a different bias that they are afflicted
based on your experiences.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
But if we can get people across the world from different places, different walks of life and everything, if we can get us all to understand the idea of unconscious bias so that we try to change that, this is where we come back to, like you always talk about, the ripple effect. It's that one drop, it's that one person doing that one thing that will grow and and you can really make a difference. But you have to be open to stand up and say, yes, I realize I have an unconscious bias and I want to change it.
Right. And with you, you're here doing this, there's somebody else over someplace else doing something about it, and multiple people around the world working on this. The world will change.
It will change.
World will change.
And
I love it.
it's what we put out there. And if we put out the power of assumption, if we use the law of assumption, that we will make the change. We
Yeah,
will, because
absolutely.
last year the theme was be the change, wasn't it? Or no, it was a few years ago that it was be the change.
Be the
And
change. Yeah.
and when you understand just what these themes mean, they're
Right.
not so many people jump on International Women's Day just for the 8th of March because it's the in thing. They're going to get more hits because they're using the right
Right. Right.
hashtags. Whereas we embrace it. That's why I make it a whole year-long project, because it makes a difference. I
Right.
don't use it just as a single day. I
Right.
bring people together so we can make a difference, that we can make a change,
Yeah.
that we can break a bias. And that makes so much difference.
It does. Awesome. Pearl, as always, great spending time with you. I always love our time together, and I hope that our listeners are getting as much value out of this as you and I get. And I haven't even been looking at comments. I don't see any comments that have come in today. So hopefully, folks, you watch this later on and leave us a comment. Let us know you watched it on the replay, or that you watched it later, and give us your thoughts. Give us your thoughts. We'd love to hear what you think and what you'd like to have us cover relative to collaborations, collaboration conversations. Open yourself up to them. They are amazing. And the way that it changes things around you. You know, what's that expression? You're 6 degrees of separation from anybody in the world. So make those introductions, have those conversations, get to meet the people you want to meet, the people you want to serve with. They're out there, and somebody knows how to get you in front of them.
Definitely.
Yeah. Awesome. We appreciate you, folks. And Pearl, I just appreciate you so much. I love this time we have together each week.
Likewise. And your pixie dust. I love your business pixie dust. I really do. I can use that now.
And we've got folks that we're lining up to bring to you on our Tuesday show to have some collaboration conversations with other people. And then on Thursdays, it's Pearl and I sharing, interviewing each other back and forth and sharing knowledge about specific topics within this collaboration conversations overall umbrella. So again, thanks, folks. We appreciate you. Thank you, Pearl. Appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
And we'll see you all on Tuesday. Bye-bye.
Bye.